out of interest?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I really would like to go to the audience. I have a question here and then a question there, and I promise I'll go to the right. We'll start here, please. Can you have a microphone here in the second row? Oh, well, now it's already there, but you'll be next. Go ahead.
Stepan Grigoryan, I am from Armenia. You know that Armenia plans to membership in Customs Union. I want to say that I hope that Belarus and Kazakhstan blocked this. They have serious remarks. I hope we resolve this issue. Second, my question will be very naive. I know that EU and NATO, based on democratic values, European values, and in the other hand, we see these serious challenges that arise in front of our countries, connecting with our independence, sovereignty level, and in the same time, in front of the EU and NATO. I investigate in these last times this reaction, and my question is very naive.
Well, ask your question.
Maybe so changed, so we have so dynamic, that after some time, in the first plan will come interest, country's interest, realpolitik, but not values.
Is this your question?
This is.
And who is going
maybe so chance we have that after some time, in the first plan, come interest. EU member countries set interest is first,
So this is
and only after that, values.
Let me understand this correctly. Are you asking about the EU interest in this?
Connected with problems with Russia, connected with problems with Russia wars and so on.
Then to you.
So I also believe and it's time to take stock and to admit and recognize that values are slightly disappearing from our vocabulary and interests taking over. This is a bad signal. And it's time to be back to the source, back to the basics, and to refresh our thinking, or reset if somebody likes this terminology. And remember that we are building our organizations, institutions on the foundation of values, and I would add also principles. So values are important, but principles not less important. Because sometimes, and coming to your point, you know, when we are appeasement and so to say concessions will not make other side to do the same. This is interesting, so to say, lesson, which is not yet shared by many. Some colleagues think that if we'll retreat, if we'll be flexible, if we'll, so to say, be nice, other side will do the same. Other side perceives that as a signal to act, to go ahead, you know, to ignore as a weakness. And this is strange, but this is true. So in order to support Ukraine, we really should make clear our minds. We also should really develop our messages in a clear way and stand firm. Not like it was in 2008 in Georgia, when after all these conflicts, you know, after the war, we have occupation of South Ossetia, of Abkhazia. We made some noise, made some statements even, and very good statements, but in two months we came back to business as usual. And that was very good lesson was learned by Russia. So it's possible. We told at that time, we'll be next stop in Crimea or maybe Transnistria, sorry for mentioning, maybe somewhere else. And that's happening. So let's come back to the source, back to the basics. Let's refresh our thinking and remember that we should not just talk about values, but we should defend these values.
But how exactly, Linas? Because I mean, strengthening our thinking, going back to the sources, having in mind that virtues and interests, values and interests sometimes overlap. What exactly is it we are going to offer Ukraine? I mean, there's a timeline of 1.5 months, perhaps when the separatists might
all kind of support.
All kind is military, political, economic.
Yes.
Just wanted
of course.
to have
Economic
some
support should be given,
this.
and there is a lot of, so to say, good figures are announced. And it's a matter of fact also important how they will be used, transparency, less corruption. You know, I'm not talking just giving money and that's it. No, it's a process, but economic support, political support in all organizations.
And how exactly would the military support look like?
Military support, I have in mind military material. If you'd like to explain my mind, I would
what the United States call non-lethal military material or also lethal military material?
Okay, I will provide you an example what I would like to show you as a model or mechanism what we already discussed in European Union. Yeah. The parallel not very correct, but it could be used. And Edgar's remembers we were discussing how we can support Kurds in their fight with so-called Islamic State and how it should be done. And it was said that individual states will provide military assistance with military material, it was said, right? So some countries are going to provide with ammunition, even weapons, to help Kurds. It's not the European Union doing, individual states doing. Why we cannot apply the same formula for Ukraine? My question is, what is detrimental for that? Why we cannot do? So I'm talking about these very tangible, concrete things because they need assistance. So in this answering to your question, let's provide all possible assistance. And at the same time, let's continue to introduce sanctions because the only way to continue with the pressure, to make them change their minds, because so far it's not sufficient. The sanctions which were applied so far, especially by European Union, were sometimes too little, sometimes too late, and sometimes not focused to those who are taking decisions. Now we have list more than 100 after addition of these 24. But before it was less than 100. And if you would have a look into the list, more than half of them had nothing to do with decision making. So my point is, let's be more focused on one hand. Also more concerted efforts needed by all players, with the United States, G7. And that will make a difference because our colleagues Russians, they can endlessly talk that they don't care, that the sanctions do not work, but we know that they are working, they have effect, they have influence, and this is true. So we must continue. But we are doing that, as I said, sometimes with some delay. That's the answer.